Hello, today on Budjet Garage, we're going to show you how to do the front brakes. First thing you're going to need is a new set of brake shoes. Sorry, brake pads. People always get upset when I say that wrong. These are brake pads. Brake shoes are for drums. So brake pads, they look like this. There's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to need to go to your parts store, get yourself a new set of brake pads. Then you're going to have to jack up the car like I've done already. Alright. Next thing you're going to do is remove the tire. So one thing that would help is I have a little piece of carpet here. Makes it easier to lean on the asphalt on the ground. So let's take the tire off. Alright, so what we're going to be replacing is this right here. This is one pad. Another pad here. How these work is there's a pad on this side and a pad on this side. There is a cylinder right here, and it expands, which makes this thing squeeze, like clamps onto the disc. Okay, so that's for your disc brake. This is your disc of your disc brake. Okay, so what we need to do is take this whole mechanism off, which is held on by this screw and this screw right here. This whole piece is going to come off, and then we can change the pads. Okay, so we're going to take this off and this off. That's a 13. That's loose. Go ahead and pop this while I'm at it. Both of them are pretty loose, actually. That's good, and it should be come out by fingers once you pop them loose. Shouldn't be a lot of rust. If there is, I'm going to have to use some penetrating oil. What these little screws do is they just hold in the studs, keeps this thing from moving. So you pull these back, these studs, what the caliper slides on. This is the caliper, that's the disc. Now what you need is a big pry. So this is how you get the caliper off. So you can see the pistons right there, and they push against the two pads. So you just pry it off. Try not to let it fall like that. Try not to let it do that. It can hurt the brake line. This is a heavy chunk of cast iron, so try to have it sit someplace where it won't put weight on this thing. Now the pads come out right there. Well, they had a little left on them, but not a whole lot. They're getting pretty low. They're pretty thin. 1 and 2. Now the nice thing about this, if you do this early, it doesn't grind into your disc. If you don't do it before these wear out, you will destroy your disc, and then you'll have to buy new discs. Okay, now what you do is you put the new pads in. So if you notice these notches, and you're going to find out the pads are exactly the same. So if you notice, it's going to slide right into where the old ones came out. There. And the other one will be exact opposite. Same exact opposite way. There's your 2 new pads. You notice they're much thicker. They've got about 1/2 inch on each one. Now, you're going to find out this piston here will not go over. It's like, oh no, these pistons are too far. So to do that, you actually take one of them out, and then you pry against the other one until it's tight. So what I've done is I've taken out the front pad, and I've gotten this pry bar end here. Now I use this size this, and I just pry this over until it squeezes the pistons back into place. What it's doing is forcing fluid back into the master cylinder. So it takes a little bit of pressure. Watch out, it tries to pop on you too. Until they're flat. They stop moving, so I'm going to assume it's flat. Let's check it out. There, now they're fully back in, if you notice. Should be able to put the whole butler pad in now. So now that I've squeezed these pistons back in, the caliper goes over both brand new pads, which is exactly what we need. So put it back together, slide it in. It's not quite sliding in. There. and to put the screws in. Alright, so this screw goes into this here. So screw that in, screw the other one in, and you're done. We'll show you in a second. I've got both bolts in. Now I just tighten it up with my 13 millimeter wrench. Try not to breathe this stuff because this is sort of nasty stuff. You want it pretty tight, but not too tight. There we go. And now your brakes are done. New shoes, caliper, everything else looks good. Make sure everything feels smooth on both sides. This one could probably be used to be turned. It does have a pretty bad notch here. I guess it'll be okay for now. Make sure this spins. If this doesn't spin, that's not good. Seems to spin good. I think we're there. Now one thing I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm going to go ahead and grease my fittings. I won't show you that, but I'm going to go ahead and grease my ball joints, which are fairly new, which bugs me that there's rubber cracking. These are fairly new ball joints, both of them. I'm going to go ahead and grease. Okay, I've greased both of the ball joints there and underneath. Now it's time to put the tire back on. Alright, one last thing you have to do is, because you have squeezed the brake calipers, the pistons, there's actually some space between the calipers and the brake pedal, or the discs. So what you have to do, before you put it in gear, you have no brakes right now. When you first do this, you got to realize you have no brakes. So you have to pump the brakes. So you pump the brakes 3 or 4 times to make sure that your brakes are tight. Goes to the floor, goes to the floor, goes to the floor, goes. Now it's pumping up. Okay, now we got some pressure. If you don't do that, you'll put it in gear and you won't be able to stop. So you need to make sure you pump your brakes back up after you do replace the pad. That's how you replace the brakes. I'm not going to show you both sides because both sides are the same. Thanks for watching Brian's Budget Garage.